Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, April 24th. My name is Alan. I want to welcome you to my Spiritual Growth Through Recovery podcast. Purpose of these videos is to grow my spirituality by following the AA program of recovery. And I do that by being honest, vulnerable, and accountable, which is why I make the videos. I'm no expert in AA or recovery or spirituality. I'm just sharing my experience as I'm trying to live life on life's terms and do it sober. So the recipe we follow here is we read the daily reading out of the AA Daily Reflections book. There's a link in the description if you'd like to follow along. We'll get busy here, all right? I'm recording this before the weekend since I'll be in California over the weekend, and I hope to kind of sit back, reflect, slow down, and see what pops in my head. So the topic for today is going to be learning to love ourselves, followed by a comparison between acceptance and surrender. All right? April 24th. Learning to love ourselves. Alcoholism was a lonely business. Even though we were surrounded by people who loved us, we were trying to find emotional security by either dominating or being dependent upon others. We still vainly tried to be secure by some unhealthy sort of domination or dependence. As Bill sees at page 252, when I did my personal inventory, I found that I had unhealthy relationships with most people in my life, my friends and family, for example. I always felt isolated and lonely. I drank to dull emotional pain. It was through staying sober, having a good sponsor, and working the 12 steps that I was able to build up my low self-esteem. First, the 12 steps taught me to become my own best friend, and then, when I was able to love myself, I could reach out and love others. All right? Loving ourselves. I don't have a very good concept of love as it is, so needless to say, I don't think very highly of myself a lot of the times, and that's something I'm working on. So, some things that kind of jumped out were, I talked about being a lonely business. There's a speaker called Bob D on YouTube that I'd suggest you listen to. And he talks about when he drank, he was finally able to come out and play. I really resonated to that because I had so much fear. Once I drank, it was like, I was able to be me. I talked to girls. I could share, then I wasn't afraid to share my opinion. But what started out as freedom became all of a sudden, came back to isolation and loneliness. And that was caused by my behaviors that revolved around my obsession to use. So I don't know if I hang on to that freedom part still to this day. I don't know. Why do we act this way? I mean, I think ultimately that's what I learned. I think I didn't really have much guidance. My parents just figure it out. So I'm just acting, and I'm seeing how the world responds. And I'm acting this way and see how the world responds. And where I grew up, it seemed to work. So whatever. It's what I learned, and now I can learn something else. It talked about I drank to dull emotional pain. I still feel like I do that today. I don't want to feel what I'm going to feel. So I don't use, but I do other things. I eat, I stay busy, I fall asleep, just not to deal with whatever I'm dealing with. What's this reality like? As we're seeing ourselves in this light, it's just like, wow, this is how I behave, this is how I am. It's humbling, it's embarrassing, but I think ultimately it's freedom. I can't change what happened to me, but at least I can do something about this. What's hard is when you see something in yourself or some reality and you know what to do about it. You feel powerless, right? So the solution is revealed to this program, all right? Talks about self-esteem, all right? So some of the definitions of self-esteem had to do with confidence in one's own worth, their abilities, self-respect, how we value and perceive ourselves. Now, there was this AA speaker over the weekend, and she talked about her definition of self-esteem was not how we see ourselves, but how we think others think about us. It's a different perspective. I'm not sure what I think about that, but I thought it was interesting. And one of the keys here, what we're talking about, is to stay sober, get a good sponsor, and work the steps. Take action. Okay, wherever we put our time and energy, that will grow, right? And then first 12 steps taught me to become my own best friend, and then loving myself, and then reaching out. I still can't comprehend loving myself. That's something I'm gonna have to really work on. But the transition here is from going from self-focus to other focus. And the self idea just keeps popping up. When I'm consumed with me, things don't go well. I keep hearing a lot of this. That same Bob D guy that I mentioned, he talks about, he just can't, enough of myself. And that's how I feel sometimes. I get so consumed with myself, I can't take it anymore. So that needing of a relief or numbing the pain kicks in there, right? Learn to love ourselves, I don't think it's that simple, and it's not easy. Years of having a twisted view of reality, insanity, led us to acquire unhealthy coping skills. So what do I do from here, right? Ultimately, I think we've been trying to fill that void with something that only made that hole bigger, right? Unhealthy relationships, drug, alcohol, that makes the hole bigger, right? So, all right, I'm going to hop over here to acceptance versus surrender. And I can't remember where this came from, but at one point I'm like, what's the difference? What's acceptance versus surrender, right? So what I did some digging, and I guess my idea of what acceptance is coming to terms with reality, seeing reality for what it is as best we can, okay? We may be in an unhealthy relationship and we think it's good and it's not. So how do we see that as what it really is, right? Stop resisting and denying the truth. To me, it's kind of like, okay, it's the way it is, right? The idea that not merely to grudgingly tolerate negative experiences, but to embrace them fully and without defense. Like, just kind of going with the flow. Now, surrender. So then surrender I have is letting go of control or judgment. Stop thinking or obsessing over something to mentally move on. Freedom from. So when I think of the two, I think of acceptance as seeing the reality for what it is. And then surrender is how do I respond to it, right? So if this is my reality, okay, I'm an alcoholic. Okay, so now I need to either surrender it, let it go, not obsess over it, or I can keep fighting it. So that's how I would best describe the definitions. There's a couple more. So with acceptance, you're meeting and connecting with the reality of the moment. And I think a lot of times we just don't want to see things for what they are because it disrupts our long-term historical view of how things should be. We want things to be a certain way. And it's easier to almost deny the reality so we can live our little fantasy world, right? And surrender is kind of being a function of transcending the ego and identifying with something bigger. It's some spiritual stuff here that I don't quite understand. So anyway, so I guess that's my best definition of the two. At one point, I thought that was important to. I almost feel like acceptance has to come before surrender, at least that's in my concept. So anyway, I hope you took something from that. Anyway, I just want to encourage you today to think about how you treat yourself, what the relationships are like in your life, are you still self-focused? You still numb in pain like I do sometimes? Hopefully not. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I'll be getting some. Hope you had a wonderful. We're gonna have a wonderful weekend. But I'll be back and get you some more videos. We'll be popping up tomorrow. So till tomorrow, peace out.